Thanks for starting live.
We're live.
We're live. All right. Got all pieces of technology working.
Are we on the record?
We're on record. You're waiting for that. You get a gavel too, then we finish.
I've got my gavel from law school.
We need to give
Bring it.
Brady a gavel.
You may need a gavel at some point.
It might have. Not a scale hammer, just a gavel. Hold on. All right, so,
Check me, this is. This meeting, right?
Can you zoom that out?
Yeah, zoom it in.
yes, that is a single thing on there. How about, oh, look at
There we go.
Oh, good. Yep. All right. Let's go right in then. First things first, just running through attendance. Deb let us know last week she's not able to attend. She had a prior conflict. Shelley is unable to attend as well. The present in the room, we have, I don't have the last names down yet, but I've got the first names. So we've got Nina, Jen, Brian, Sid, Kelly, Dick, and Paul, and Rainey. All right, and Evan, we are expecting at 6:30.
On the new show.
Okay, perfect. So, first item on the agenda is move to approve minutes from previous meetings. But before we do that, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting? So, in looking through the council minutes and other minutes and minutes from a previous meeting, I know that there was a lot of color coding and it seemed a little chaotic to me. I don't know if it's just me or if we want to maybe have more standardized minutes template or flow. Anybody have thoughts on that other than me?
Yeah, I am comfortable as it is, but I think it's the person taking the minutes because they got to do it. Yeah. Whatever.
That's my thought as well.
Yeah, I'll also say that we are, as of today, we're live streaming, right? So anybody who wants to check with more thorough detail can watch the live stream. As of the next meeting, we'll have an audio recorder and that audio file will be available on the website. So I think there's ample, that's my opinion.
So, do we move to approve the minutes?
So moved. Give me a second. I'll call. All in favor?
You are.
I'll record it.
All
Yeah.
right, so all in favor?
Aye. All right. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Okay.
All right. So the first thing on my agenda I like to go through is just an update on our action items from the previous meeting. Right, we walk away with things to do, let's get updates on that. So Kelly, you had 3,
Mhm.
which we may have added to after answering some of them, but confirming whether we need to be sworn in, confirming whether or not a form is required for a commission meeting, and then also you were gonna do some research into legal timeline requirements, that sort of thing for the board election, so. What do you have?
All right, I have a couple of different updates. I was able, so I reached out to 2 different places. Actually, I'll discuss this first. I reached out to Jeffrey Mackey at the Franklin County Board of Elections, and I asked him basically just our general questions. He did confirm through his experience assisting another municipality with their charter process that we do need to take an oath of office. He sent me an email with the proposed language for it. And then we would need to do that in front of basically anyone who can take oaths. So village clerk, solicitor, notary public, etc. and then have that transmitted to the clerk. So that's what he said to me for that. What I would suggest is we have me basically take that language and print out however many copies of it as we have members with their name on it, and then we can each take the oath and sign it at the same time, and then it's written and submitted.
We have one oath and 15 signatures.
My thought is better safe than sorry. Let's just have everybody do. I mean, look, I can print it. I can do the oath 15 times, but I would rather have there be no ambiguities.
Will it have to be notarized?
It's a little unclear. Literally, what he sent to me is, I think that you could do this before the village clerk, but if that is not possible, appear before someone else who can take oaths, parentheses, solicitor, notary public, etc. Have them mark the oath and then transmit that to the clerk. That's what he emailed to me. I can call him to get more clarification if we need me to, but it just seems to me, take the oath, sign it.
Yeah, probably the easiest would be to get the mayor to do a quick swearing in. I don't know if we just want to invite her to do that at next Thursday's meeting. That's probably the easiest. And then,
When you say follow with the clerk, are you talking about an official
Yeah.
county clerk? It has to be submitted to them.
to the, you're saying it's set out of the,
I think he means the clerk down at the Board of Elections.
That's what makes sense. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Well, we used to have we have a, villages will have a clerk or a clerk treasurer
Mhm.
who is in charge of things. I think it's Kim, who's our financial officer, does the clerk duties. So, and there would be things like, making sure that all the minutes were in order and the records are in order and that kind of things for the village. So,
I'm sure she's gonna be a notary, isn't she?
Yeah.
I know.
and I know
She
Lynn,
is.
I know Lynn.
I mean, I'm a notary, so I could do everybody else's, but I can't notarize my own oath.
I would have a hard time imagining Lynn would make herself available to
Right.
swear us all in next Thursday.
So we can't do anything in official capacity until what happens?
I don't think that's the case. I think we just need to get it done sooner rather
We're
than
not
later.
signing anything yet.
Yeah.
voting on anything. So it
Right.
doesn't matter.
I think we're fine.
I will say that Lynn has a typical conflict with this date and time, so I'll reach out to her and ask her, is this conflict, what's better?
Maybe we all have to show up to the next, for the regular council meeting on the whatever. Or make our way drips and drabs one by one,
maybe week for the council.
who will fit.
Or we could just get another notary public, my
Yeah.
next door neighbor is a notary public.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we can
So-
easily do it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
so we'll leave them next Thursday, if Lynn isn't available, we'll.
I'll get it
uh,
made up into a form and print out multiple copies of it.
I'll still ask her. If she can make it this Thursday, I'll let you know.
Question on that email that talked about the notarization or the,
Mhm.
there was an issue about campaign expenses. If you don't have any expenses, do you have to file one if you don't have any?
I asked him that question and he said, we do not. We do not have campaign expenses, so we don't need to file any financial disclosures.
So for clarity, the PAC that was formed that did have expenditures, that has to file, but I'm taking care of that. That had nothing, that was not directly related to this spot.
Correct. The next question that I asked him was, do we actually have to have a quorum in order to have a meeting by law, or is that just a self-imposed rule? And he did not know the answer to that. So I'm still digging on that. And then finally, I asked him to help me out with the actual timeline. The answer to that is in this email. The 2019 general election is on November 6th. We will need to file a document with the Board of Elections by August 7th, 2019. and he attached a copy of what the Village of Bryce filed, the ordinance that they filed when they placed their charter question on the ballot, but I'm not sure, I'm still looking. That was sent, this email was sent to me, while I was in the middle of a client meeting, so I didn't get a chance to look at it very closely. So I'm still kind of unclear as to what we have to actually put on the ballot, whether it would be the full text of the charter, or whether it would just be the question, do you vote to approve the charter?
I think that's what the ordinance is.
I believe that is
It's
correct, but I kind of want to just verify that because I don't want to screw that up.
with the wording that would be on the ballot.
Can you give us 2 days, in the general election is November?
November 6th, we need to submit our ordinance to them August 7th,
And
No later than August.
no later than August 7th.
And then, does it have to be, like everything else, does it have to be filed here first?
I think it does.
I think it does.
I think it
It
is.
has to be filed here first, and they get to decide whether it's okay or not.
Well, I think so, well, since we are simply completing the task that the residents voted on last time, I can't believe they could vote not pass the ordinance. But I think it does have to,
Yeah,
go through the village, and then Kim, our financial officer, who's also then kind of like our clerk, she's the one that, that takes it down.
We need to find out about that, though,
Mhm.
because if we put this much work in, and they have the right to knock it down.
and they, last time, for the, do we want a charter, do we want to even explore a charter question? So, and the building. When I was, getting signatures to fight the building purchase, the village told us that we had to give them 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So we're talking about something that we have to have done by July, like mid-July. It has
So we
to be
really don't have a
filed.
year, we have 6 months.
We have 6 months to get this done, yes.
So how can you find out whether they have to vote yes or no?
And I think, Kelly, you're gonna have to research that. If it's a charter, is it different?
I am now looking at the ordinance, sample that he sent to me from the Village of Bryce, and it is an ordinance, whereas the council and charter commission desire to submit to the electors of the Village of Bryce the following question, quote, shall the proposed charter as reported by the charter commission of the Village of Bryce be adopted, question mark, and then it's the normal language that goes into ordinances, now therefore, Section 1, Section 2, Section 3 with instructions like the acting fiscal officer is directed to certify a copy of this ordinance to the appropriate election officials. Council member Dawn blah 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 be directed to make the necessary arrangements with the appropriate election authorities. Like it's a whole ordinance.
Right, but that doesn't mean that the charter needs to be done to that.
They may question it, they may say, I'm not gonna vote for anything unless I see the charter. I think so. I'm just being a little devil's advocate, because I think that would be okay.
But I think we'll have a really good draft.
Yeah, well, we hope, right, and that can be a goal, but I don't think that they can, not, because it's just getting a question on the ballot, and if there's no document to approve, it's a moot point, right, so.
I think it would be, if they didn't do that, then that would be something that they would be negligent, because the voters mandated that we write up this charter.
And that,
That's all they mandated.
Right.
They didn't mandate.
No, so that they can vote on it again in 2019. I mean, so they can see what we write and then vote on it.
But that's the thing that puzzles me, is the fact that the public voted for the charter. I couldn't see how council could turn it down.
well, so
I don't know if there's any obligation for them to pass it.
there is no obligation for them to pass it. There's also no obligation for them to turn it down. And to be fair to them, the city council at the time when we were dealing with the building, They accepted those petitions and they filed them. They didn't like it, but they did it. So, and honestly, I feel like if they were ever going to, based on the people who were sitting on council at the time, if they were ever going to come up with, the ability to say no, that would have been it, and they didn't do it.
Hold on, I think I can actually just go ahead and answer the question for everybody. Reading this a little bit more closely, Article 18, Section 8, dictates, any charter framed in accordance with that section must be submitted to the electors at an election held at a time fixed by the Charter Commission, and within 1 year from the date of the commission's election, the municipal legislative authority shall provide for an election on the date specified
Yeah,
by the Charter Commission.
done and done.
So-
Shall is a much friendlier word
So
than may.
I'm gonna read through this real fast while we continue, but I believe that answers that question. The council doesn't have a extra choice.
Nice, okay, good.
Sorry about that, guys. I should have read that email more thoroughly.
I can just send you what I already done, and we already got together. So, but I do think while they have to, I think we do have to engage with whoever the chair of the legislative committee is to make sure it's on the calendar. And it sounds like that needs to be on their calendar for, what's that, for August? July. So it actually needs to be on their calendar for a first reading, the second meeting of June.
Yes, it does, the second meeting in June, you're absolutely right. So we have reduced our time here significantly, not that we absolutely have to have it done by then, but.
This would be an emergency.
Why can't it be?
And you know what? We could put them in that situation, right? If we didn't have it there until, we could, and because it's a shall, we could probably even force them to have a special council meeting,
Yeah,
August 6th. But in an effort of being neighborly, right, we should make sure that we have it on our,
Let's aim for all best efforts to do it.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, and I'm not trying to engage in any gamesmanship whatsoever, but because this is not a situation where the council needs to feel good about the charter draft, we don't have to have the charter draft completely done by June. We could have it done by September. We just need enough time to get it in front of all the villagers so that they have plenty of
Right.
time to read it.
right,
But it's not like we have to have it done in June.
right.
Ray, because there are so many dates now that are starting to evolve, I think we ought to have a continual document with all the items added
I
on
would
it.
like to make a project plan and just give the dates and things to make of it. They don't have enough yet. Once I do,
Okay,
Another reason to get it on their calendar is that if any of them are having vacations, there have been times sometimes when vacations have maybe prevented, at least, having to do an emergency, because we need more votes for an emergency. And we wouldn't want to put them in that position and then find out do people on vacation.
Right.
We had talked about Robert's Rules of Order earlier, perhaps mention it. If we adopt that, don't we have to adopt the whole procedure then? If we're going to adopt it, to use the Robert's Rules of Order in our meetings?
I will be perfectly honest and upfront. I don't know Robert's Rules of Order. I
Well,
started reading them,
they
but
specify exactly what happens.
I think the difficulty here is that I can speak for me. I am not familiar enough with Robert's Rules of Orders to know that I could come into this room and operate within Robert's Rules of Order.
But it also speaks to the quorum.
Yeah, I think we've already agreed that we need a quorum to have a meeting, and that
We haven't decided what the quorum is.
I think with, well, majority, which would be 8. right?
At least until we get more receipts.
No, even, it is a majority.
Is that-
vote.
okay.
I mean, it's only 15.
We made it on fifty,
Yeah.
we're being conservative, really.
Yeah.
We've been,
Okay.
I think.
Waiting for a quorum of the 15, even though we're not at 15. As long as we have 8.
So we really don't need to have anything down as far as how the meetings are held.
I mean, I think it's up to
I
us.
think that having the minutes and that kind of stuff is an important part of documentation of the meeting, which I think we do. Is probably the most important thing. I mean, all the archival stuff that we're gonna have, we have the streaming, we have the recordings, we have the minutes. I think you have to have minutes.
Yes.
I mean, so that's.
Yes.
That's not a law, so.
Yeah, but
Well,
some-
we just assume that everybody's gonna get along and have us go along with.
Yeah, that's a good.
But that's where Robert's rules of work comes in, is it there's some problems or somebody has an issue.
Well, on the first meeting, we did talk about being civil. And that was one of our.
We discussed that at the
We
first,
did that.
you know, we.
So far, so good, sis.
Yeah,
Probably
I'm
fine. This seems very organic to me. People are taking turns, and I suppose we could add it later on if we end up with a
I think Sid
problem.
has a really good point, I really do, and all of us, I mean, probably all of us
It's
have
like
a
a
Robert's rules book at home.
It's like a pre.
On the web.
Nobody younger than
Don't feel the
50
internet.
has a
Don't feel the internet.
Robert's rules book at home.
No,
I guarantee that.
several versions.
Oh, I do too.
But, we might wanna,
Well,
pick up one and be ready if we decide that we want to operate it.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid conversation and maybe a good partial item to always keep on the table. If it starts looking like we're running into issues and maybe let's find ways to work through them. I don't know that because we're on such a short timeline and we're not a perpetual commission, I don't know that it bears taking a month to figure out how we're gonna run our meetings when we've only got 6 to really work with.
I would even look at it as a guide too. Robert's rules is a guide, and I don't know that it was, I don't know, I'm not an expert at it, but I've been in enough Six Sigma meetings where it's like, you have 5 minutes and when you're done, you're done. And then you move on to the next topic and the next topic, and I think if we were just cognizant of the topic. And it's a valid point though, because in 2 or 3 months, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, we're starting into the difficult conversations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Different opinions, it's gonna matter more than.
You can probably get it on the internet, so it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you have to consume it, understand it, and live by it, then it's cool.
Well, and we did also talk about, there's no bad questions. Everybody, we talked about remaining civil, and we also talked about something, if we start, my terminology, just banging our heads on the wall, it's part of one item, take away, come back to it, give people time to think about it, and that's fine. If we have to make that call, we make that call. And here it comes. If you start being feisty, we can move this conversation. No. Or Pam, Pam, like. So,
You know, watch that guy.
I know. Well, she should have stuck with me calling it Dick, 'cause then we could blame everything on Dick.
So I think that's what I have to report on the 3
Action items.
action items that you had given that I had taken on.
All right, so still researching whether or not a quorum is required, but we've agreed just by common agreement that we're gonna hold one because it can't go wrong.
I mean, if we're gonna, I'm not gonna lie, if we're just gonna voluntarily hold ourselves to it anyway, I'm not gonna waste my time researching it, if that's okay. with
Right,
everybody.
yeah.
Okay.
So as far as what needs to be filed for this charter, like, did we figure out if we just need to file a draft that can be changed, if it can be changed, what's the deadline for change?
I have a template, ordinance that we can put together that I will be able to convert into an ordinance for Minerva Park to present to the council when we're ready for them to do the thing, and then they will be able to pass that ordinance, and that will cause them to put the charter up for vote.
I guess my question is when do we have to have the final draft of the charter filed with someone.
I
I don't know this.
don't know that we do. Right, we just need, what we are, as I understand it, maybe this is the research item, but our public notice of what the charter is us mailing it out to the electors of the village.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, at some point, that the official final draft of the charter will have to be filed somewhere. So I will research what that is.
That's the one.
But but again, that's not until, I would assume that's not until we need to mail it.
Awesome. Guess who has action items next? Right. So you had posted sunshine laws on the shared drive and get the audio recordings off of the current recorder.
Yep, so I got those posted on the shared drive. I have not gotten the existing audio recordings yet because I need the village administration to pull them off of the current device and provide them to me. So I will continue to inquire and work towards that. And then we do have now our own voice recorder that we will start at the next meeting, and that is ours for this commission, and I will control that and be able to do that. It would have been in use for this meeting, but I didn't know I would need to provide batteries. So, but we are live streaming, so that will work for this. And then I had one other item, which is too down yet, to add the municipal league document on our public site, and that actually was already up there.
So I'm new to OneDrive.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have a tutorial before the next one.
So that is, it will work better when KG Technology is supposed to give everybody access to it, right? So right now, what I'm doing is I'm posting stuff and creating links through which you can access it and update, right? But once KG Technology gives you your own access, and you don't, because you were not on council anymore when they made that for us. But like they never got rid of my access from when I was on council, so I just log into OneDrive and it goes.
But like anybody that has a computer in Microsoft
Yeah.
can get a OneDrive something or other,
So
right?
that might be, yeah, we can maybe, here's what I suggest, because that's a great idea. Before our next meeting, anybody who feels like they need help with OneDrive, get here, if we're planning to meet at 6:30 next time, here at 6, and I'll help anybody who needs help getting on OneDrive.
And hopefully by then we have our village email addresses that'll be tied to the OneDrive to begin with.
We'll bring our computers in. We should bring our laptops.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah, I'll explain it so that I can actually see it. I mean, I've got,
or you,
but you send us those links that all that alphabet, right? And I'm thinking, that can't be the way it gets posted.
typically you just log into the website and it's there under shared stuff.
I mean, I see it when I click on it, and I'll see the things that are there, but then I don't have any intuitive sense on how it works.
I tried to back navigate too, and it just didn't angered me a lot to get to it, so.
So.
It's not working the way it should right now, so don't get used to it. It will be
Okay,
better.
good.
Somebody who wants to sign up for, or already has a OneDrive account, I can see if I can share that to your OneDrive account and not just make.
I would prefer to just wait until we have those email addresses. Because it's all gonna change again anyway, once we get those addresses.
Not necessarily, so I have mine associated to my
Oh, yeah.
account because I just haven't shared it to my existing OneDrive account.
Okay.
No sense having a second one, in my opinion.
Alright, that was all of your homework. We have an action item for everyone to look through the charter document, highlights, called out on page 27 to 29, and again on page 43. I'll be honest, I read it, I'm a cross-eyed. But I did read it.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So when I read that document, I listened to everybody, regarding the Morrow County. It said that none of this is true or not, because we have established a budget and seed funding bill. So is that something we would do now?
Yeah.
I apologize, I guess I wasn't done with my 3 action items. So I sent that email out, a response to your email like yesterday or something, I forget. You found it on a village website. It turns out that document actually originates somewhere else. I'm blanking on the name right now.
You said that.
Yeah.
And I sent an email with all of that information. OCMA, I contacted them via telephone and she promised to send me an email with contact names of people that could help us with questions like that, because I figured this is the organization that put together that document, why not contact the source? She emailed me today saying that she has emailed the OCMA president and their support of the profession committee chair regarding the questions that I asked, and they are going to get back to me. So as soon as they do, I will keep everyone updated.
I also read the blueprint.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping for is, it's a really neat document, it just doesn't have any citations at all, so I don't know where they're pulling any of
And
those
they have notes in there
facts.
as to other officials, but nothing on that.
Right, and so I'm hoping that they will be able to fill that in for us a little bit better. So as soon as I hear from them, I will let you know.
But it just in general, are we gonna have to go to council and say, we want to spend $10,000 on postage? Do we need to do that sooner than later?
I don't know, that's why I
So
want to find out from these people.
Yeah, so procedurally, they have already appropriated
Okay, so that's
a 30, right, so those funds are there. But to spend it, depending on the what's in the house, legislation may be required. Like, so if and when we choose to retain legal counsel, right, there may very well be, or I would assume, be a contract that the village will need to enter into, where we need counsel to pass legislation to engage in that contract. And that contract then would trigger what needs done in the paper, right? For postage, right, if it really, or the printing and mailing, if it's really $10,000, I suspect that would require some kind of legislation to hire a printer to get that done, right? So,
If it's in the budget, I think that it can be done. I don't think there needs to be a piece of legislation for that. But maybe the contract part,
right, the
not
contract
to
for
spend the money.
Right, contract for sure, but I know I haven't seen Lynn engage in spending like anything more than $2,000 without a piece of legislation. Yeah, so I'm just speaking from how I've seen it work.
And we don't actually have to have the thing printed by a printer.
No,
We do not.
no.
We do not, and nor do I think we should spend that money.
Well, but I disagree because it may be that we print it on paper that is, like very lightweight, so they should keep the postage down. I don't know how many of us have gotten things that
I
are.
will say that's probably a conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is.
So I'm thinking there's ways that we can keep the cost down and still get it out to everybody. But it might indeed involve a printer.
And just out of curiosity, is that written anywhere as far as the process to spend money out of that budget? Do we need to figure that out? Or did I just miss it?
I think what we should probably do is, for a future meeting, invite the chair of the finance committee and maybe see if we can get the fiscal officer and ask them how they expect us to do this. Because I know, and Pam knows, and Dick knows, right, because we've been on council before, how these things happen for council, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's gonna happen for this group. And those would be the two people, right, the chair of the finance committee, and the fiscal officer are the two that will need to be pleased with our process.
Perfect. All right. So Pam, I'm gonna skip you for a minute because you're gonna take a longer time than I am. I'm just gonna go through my action items real quick. So I did follow up with the mayor on updating the postings with the new start times. We'll start at 6:30 starting next week. She would take care of it. I also followed up with her regarding the email account. She's in theory escalated it to get someone to work on it, and they're working on it. The fact that they kept trying to get into OneDrive does support that. So we're,
I know they have what they need now.
yes. So I'm asking for daily or day and a half leave on that. And then I did also reach out to Councilwoman Shrimp regarding any previous research she done about costs of other charges in the past. If you've got some information rather than putting, we okay, what do you got? So she said that the information she had it was very minimal. She hadn't done a lot of research. We would not be reinventing the wheel with any research we did on charter costs. Unfortunately, not anything we can find there. I also, just as an update, it's not on here, but the mayor did reach out to me about building access if she's not able to attend in the future. That doesn't sound much for me.
So did you get a key and code?
I will. I didn't get it yet, she just gave me that information today, and she got a cheap from the building force today. So no worries on that. Any questions on my action items or those updates? All right, so we have remaining PM action item of explanation forms of government
And,
accounts.
and help by Nina. Nina was great. Reached out to me and had done some, different kinds of, some research, et cetera. And one thing I would like to put maybe in our parking lot to talk about at the end of the meeting, is you had talked about having people, come to our meeting and talk about, just some reasons why the public. And I think initially I was kind of reluctant, but I think that if you run it in a way where citizens' comments and people just have a certain amount of time and people talk one at a time and do that type of thing, it could, because many of you have not been on council, have not lived in the village for 50 years. And so it might be good for you to hear. And yeah, absolutely. But finding a way to do it so that it doesn't turn into so it stays really productive, exactly. Yeah, so you could even have some exchange, but it doesn't become huge exchange. So I just wanted to say that as, we can talk about it more, but I think that's something that we should talk about, how we do it. Open and accessible.
Hey, welcome. Hello, Chair.
So the first thing, and another thing that I had Ryan put up on the shared drive was a village handbook. I don't know if anybody wants to read that or not, but it is, it's the rules that villages have to follow. So it's what villages have to do now, and the reason we're writing the charter is so that we can do things a little bit differently. And one of the things I learned when I was doing that is that villages can have different forms of government without a charter. They can have a couple of other types of things, which I thought was very, very interesting. So, and I did reference here, did talk about some of those other ones. And I think this, and we can chime in too, as we talk about this. It's,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have those 3 documents you emailed. Do you want them up there? Will that help you all?
I don't necessarily, it might.
You know, let's hold on. I mean, she emailed them to us. She did not email them to our guests, so let them know.
Yeah, you want to pass me the HDMI, that way you can keep taking notes and I'll put up documents. Sorry. But
Yeah, it's fantastic.
it's a fun game. Which one,
Let's start with just background, which, you know,
The one page.
yeah, I'm never a fan of putting something up and then have somebody read it to you.
the notes on form, that one?
Let's see what it looks
Selection of the form of government.
like. That's too dense. It's,
The one page.
yes, selection of the form of government. Yeah, that. And then that first part just talks about what is on the books. It looks like from everything that both Lynn and I look at throughout the nation, there are a finite number of ways people have decided to structure themselves. And that's in the middle where a mayor council, and what's interesting is that they have to make a differentiation between a strong mayor and a weak mayor. It's not about the personality of the mayor, it would be about the responsibilities that are given to that mayor, the types of decisions that the mayor can make without necessarily going to council and needing everything approved. So a strong mayor would have been given a lot of discretion in what he or she could do, whereas a weak mayor, it would be more defined. And both of those things would be defined in the charter. And so I thought that was interesting.
It seemed important to me that we both found multiple sources that reinforced each other, that there's not a wide array of things. It may use a different word here and there, but there's 5. I mean, there's 5. And so the sources all reinforce that. So, and that seems like a good starting point, that we don't have to brainstorm out the options. There's well-established sources and options.
So those are the right thing, exactly. Actually, there are these other two, like the town meeting, where once a year everybody gets together and just decide, right?
No, we're gonna do it, and then at the end, walk and throw rocks at each other, because that's where they have them. And so, did you see that?
I think next is a city manager form, which would be a council with a manager. And I think a lot of people in the village have talked about changing the way we do things, have talked about having a manager of sorts that would help the village.
In other places, it's referred to as the administrator, so man, that's interesting.
And we should use those two just interchangeably.
Absolutely.
A commission form, which I am not familiar with, but it did sound like different commissions are set up and different people head up those commissions, and those panel of the heads of the commissions and things helps make up
So, another way to look at, think about it is a ward system.
Yes.
Yes, it's a ward system. Like,
but aren't the commissioners then sometimes given, like one's a financial commissioner and one's a.
You're right, that is, so ward probably isn't the best way to put it, but yeah, so instead of just a general council, there would be a commissioner of finances, a commissioner of police, a commissioner of sanitation, and then all of those different commissioners come together and act like a council.
and I think actually in practical forms, how it's done is people are elected from wards, and then
Could be.
the determination is made about are you the commissioner of sewers? Are you the fire commissioner? What are you in
There's only-
charge of?
I think at the end of the day, though, the thing to keep in mind, there's like 1 or 2 jurisdictions in Ohio that use the commission.
Yeah, I know,
So-
and we're not big enough, we're just not big enough.
From my reading it, each one of those commissions needs bodies,
Yes,
right? So instead of a government of 7, now you have a government of 15 or 20.
Exactly.
And to act, to expect that from a population of 1,500 seems an awful lot.
Can I ask a question? Council manager or city manager form, is there a differentiation between those? I'm thinking specifically of Cincinnati. The city of Cincinnati does not actually have a mayor. They do have a mayor, but the way the mayor is determined is the council member who gets the most votes becomes the mayor.
Oops, I'll put it back up.
I think that mayor, councilor, administrator could be,
Mayor, council administrator form, okay.
it could be, or it could be, if we decided, an elected mayor.
And I wonder if their charter actually specified that.
I don't know.
If they,
So from my reading, there are some jurisdictions where the council and the administrator do all of the work, and the mayor is an elected position still, but it's literally ceremonial. They're there to cut the ribbons.
and I don't remember that
Yeah.
in Cincinnati.
And in the alternative, sometimes there will be a council administrator, and the council will elect a mayor of one of the councilmen
Right.
to basically be the spokesperson for the village.
I got you.
Well, that's how Westeros is, isn't it?
I think so.
Oh, is it?
And then the other one is the county representative county. So those are the 5 different types that we,
You can probably eliminate a few of them.
we,
Absolutely.
One that
Yeah,
we did, so
yeah.
you can't do that last
we're not gonna,
I think
I don't know how,
That's
we're working that direction,
Yeah.
actually. Form, I don't know how we do that.
Something that I thought was interesting, one step down in the central Ohio, you made that
Yes.
kind of chart.
Yeah, a little further.
Of that whole list, there are only 2 villages, and one of them is mayor council and the other is council manager.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. It doesn't actually give us much guidance, but
There just aren't many, most of them, but somebody was talking about that people would do research on these other ones, but there may be a time where we actually would want to, before eliminating, something like mayor, council, administrator, reach out to some that have it and find out, exactly how it's working for them. But it does sound like, we are at least eliminating the commission form.
In the town meeting.
At the town meeting, yes, thank you.
And it does kind of sound,
So
I
easy.
love a free for all. Every single time to get everything done.
Oh, God.
We could do, maybe write it into the charter, steel cage grudge matches.
Oh.
Sell tickets and probably make a fortune.
From the school, back to your point, there's not a lot of clarity in the population, and whether it's a council mayor or mayor council. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the size of these cities.
Of course, we can't, it wouldn't be possible to use the strong and weak mayor's idea anyway. We'd have to decide who's the weak mayor and who we have at the time, or the
Well, I
strong
think
mayor.
it's more of the powers.
right,
It's-
that's not the person, it's the office. Whether that office is powerful
Oh,
or
yeah,
not.
I misinterpreted.
Yeah.
The mayor.
Week is ceremonial,
Okay.
but
Well, it would be,
But it's
It
so,
doesn't have to
so
be.
in my
That's,
it
reading-
doesn't have to be. I mean, that's like
that's the other end of the spectrum.
right. Just to kind of, for clarity's sake.
In one of the other documents, it's not this one, but there's a mention made somewhere, I don't remember. if I
yeah,
highlighted
and
it.
this is just nice background, for everyone. The next one might be, the local government 101, strong mayor versus council manager. So is that what we get everyone to go to next?
Probably, I think, we make sure we have.
Oh, yeah, and that's
detail.
actually,
So
that's one that,
everybody
that's why
has-
I did highlight it.
No, you have the specifics now, and you can look at more detail, this is a summary, this is a little more specific, but ultimately it kind of boils down to this, to sort of tease out two of the options, and start to talk about, how the structures are seen, at least baseline, by the author, and what the advantages and the disadvantages are, just from a generic or broad point of view, and then maybe we can start to work on talking about what our own advantages and disadvantages would be for each one as a beginning place to enrich this discussion. We gotta
Brian
start
is the
somewhere.
other one,
It's the other one?
it's the other one. There is overlap among them.
Yes,
This is just that one was a nice discussion of, what they were, but the one is, the local government 101 is the advantages and disadvantages.
Did you send me?
I did,
You
it's
did.
probably mayor, council versus administrative.
that's what it is.
It is,
Okay.
I believe.
This is not, and we're just trying to find a place to start, to begin to have an organized dialogue about how to unpack this. We have to start somewhere.
So you could also have like the exact same system we have now. We have mayor and council, and you could enact that the mayor, just as an example, can't spend more than $100 without council's approval.
Right.
Then you instantly
Right,
change the balance of power,
Yeah.
right,
so it's more equitable among the council.
right.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
right,
you have the
yeah.
exact same system, or conversely, you could do the same thing where you have the council manager and you do those powers. So we can tailor it any way you want to tailor it.
Yes.
And you can make those changes, especially fiscally, that are gonna be really, what people are gonna want.
And then I want to ask this question to everybody, but probably not all you. It is my understanding from everything that I've read that we can, if we so chose, we could write in a different way to depose elected officials that we don't like. We can set the standard for recall. I mean, I'm just thinking kind of, I want an administrator we can fire, but the reality is, I mean, that's where I stand on this. But the reality is, how much more money is that gonna cost us? That's the sticking point, and for me, and I said this to a group of people last
So you're talking about if you
fall.
have a city manager,
If we have a city
you
manager,
want to build
that is going to cost us a lot more than our current
the
mayor.
city manager reports to the council, and then there's a lot of, right now, I've been reading about a lot of lawsuits that the city manager feels wrongly.
Yes,
So,
yes.
So-
and that's a true
And
story.
that's just, I've heard like 3 or 4 of them in the past couple of months.
Yeah.
Keep seeing them pop up.
yeah, so where I stand on that, and this next few months, I think is gonna be interesting, because I'm kind of coming at it from a little bit of an opposite direction as you. The idea of a council manager approach makes me nervous, because at the end of the day, if the council says, we've decided we're doing this, the manager can either do it, or they can be fired. They're not a mayor, they're not an elected
Right, they're
official,
not
they
an
don't
elected
have, that puts a lot of power in the seat of the council. And I'm a democracy guy, I like having checks and balances of power.
So I have another question, and this falls to you two. In this research that you did, I know that it is a charter commission's purview to change the process for recalling a politician. Is it also within our purview to force an administrator who is an elected official? Can we write into a charter how priorities for government are set up? And is that something that we even want to go down? Because one of the biggest problems that we've had so far is our mayor has one set of priorities that may or may not be shared with anyone else. And council has another set of priorities. Never do the two meet. And the reality so far has been that the mayor runs the show and does exactly what she will, or more to the point, exactly what she won't.
I don't feel like we should write the charter towards individuals.
I
That's
know,
not at all
I
right.
know, and I don't either, but the thing is that we could end up in this same situation again and again and again, and or the opposite situation, potentially. And I'm just asking the question, do we have the ability to write that?
I don't know. And did you find, well, one of the things I would like to research more, I think all of us, is if managers are elected or if they are hired as employees. They're hired, and it's under, it's under.
They're an employee of
Yes.
the municipality, the council hires them just like the council would hire any other.
I think if, so I, and Brian and Nick can chime in, is one of the problems that we have right now is that there's too much to be done by a part-time mayor.
Yes.
Whatever the priorities are, or who's setting them, or et cetera, that there's too much for a part-time, 12 hours.
Is it too much, or is it not enough given to the council members?
Yeah, and I would put in now with a council that most of them have full-time jobs and are paid $50 a month. There's too much to be done by that combination.
So that was actually gonna be a question. I wanted to come here tonight and ask that question of some of the former council members that are on this commission, because it seemed to me as I was reading this that a good solution might be keeping the mayor position, very clearly defining the responsibilities of the mayor versus the responsibilities of council, so there's not that cross purpose,
Exactly.
and making the mayor position full-time instead of part-time.
And
I don't know if there's enough to justify a full-time mayor position. I don't know.
I think things would get done.
Well,
I have a big question, and that is that can the charter specify that the mayor be full-time?
Yes, I bet you.
Because
Why not?
state statute doesn't specify that the mayor is full-time or part-time. That is procedurally set by, that's actually an ordinance set by council.
But that's the charter.
But, yeah, the charter, I think the charter.
I think we would have that option.
Yeah, let's go, let's.
Yeah. It's a question, because it's not saying that it's currently controlled by a mechanism that sets our.
So it's not like there would be a separate provision in the charter that says the mayor position shall be full-time. It's, if you have any position that you have in a charter, you're gonna have to have duties of that position, and it would be in the duties that the mayor is expected to
Yes.
put in a minimum of X amount of work.
I go with what Randy said, is just really looking at some of the things, they define it as
Based on
a 40-hour
population too, I think would help.
based
But
on.
I don't disagree, I like the idea, but I also go back to giving council power to do stuff on their own. If there's a street commission, that the street person would be in charge of streets, and not taking direction directly from the mayor. I mean, I'm not been on council, I don't know how it all works, but I think that there's a lot of direction. You are on this committee, gonna be in this committee, and is there any, you've been on the council, are you directed on what committee you put on, or do you?
Yeah, so as it works today, the mayor, when I was on council, the mayor handed out committee assignments. However, I do believe that council just changed their rules and they're assigning their own committees to an
Am I
extent.
allowed to chime in?
You can answer that
Yes,
question.
you are.
You can answer a direct
You
question.
don't have to agree, Chris.
You know, that's gonna be an ongoing
Yeah,
discussion through the rest of this year.
Right.
Or next year is, I feel that the council members do have responsibilities that are spelled out in the committee assignments.
but back to, so how they're assigned to their committees is definitely something we could address in the charter, but then they do have responsibilities in those committees to meet, make determinations within the committee's purview. So you said streets, right? So the street committee meets, right? And issues are before them, like the stop sign striping at Ponderosa and Kerwood, right? They meet, they discuss, they look at options, and then they bring a recommendation to council, and then council approves or doesn't approve. That's how it's supposed to work today, right? But there are committees that don't meet. There are committees that meet and don't make recommendations. There are, it then becomes what people do or don't do.
And then usually what happens is the committee is never given the responsibility of really seeking out contractors and.
Right, well, that's true, and then going back to what you said,
You think sometimes they.
Sometimes the service committee, historically, and streets committee has, put out bids, right? Has,
Okay,
advertised for what have you, and then reviewed what's come back in or what hasn't come back in. And then put forth a suggestion.
and the problem therein is that the mayor has made the determination about who she will trust to do that and who she will not trust. And when she doesn't trust someone to do that, she will fall back on state statute concerning bid process and everything else. That's been the MO. And I'm not singling out I am singling out the mayor, but the point here is this could happen no matter who's mayor
Absolutely.
if we do not address the issue.
So I'm gonna pause the conversation only because we only have a half hour left. Sorry, it's okay. I really think that, the basic information that you guys called through, to get the 5 forms, to get the 5 forms is good information. What additional do we want to know? I've got the takeaway about, what are other charters doing about a mayor defining part-time, full-time? What additional information do we want to dig into?
we're actually going to some of the charters of.
We absolutely can do that. We can read the charters to see what they're doing. Do we want to go talk to different charters? I'm sorry,
Yes.
charters a piece of paper, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To find out what they feel the pros and cons are, now that they've had this in play for X number of years, what have you. I don't know that we're quite there yet, but just to build on the information that we have here, what next steps do we want to take on the topic? Do we feel like we have all the information we need? Or-
No.
I did
Yeah.
hear one thing we can do, spreadsheet, might be to, take some of these, whether it's in central Ohio or in Ohio, villages and places with, charters and look at population.
Okay.
So I'll take that. I'll put your draft.
Because then as we begin to want to look at people that might be, equivalent, it would be interesting, because I thought about this a lot when we were trying to get people to vote for the charter, maybe not only population, but if there's any indication of urban versus rural. And
I was gonna say, Minerva Park is surrounded by Columbus, and there's gonna be some similarly sized jurisdictions in Ohio that are not in that.
Exactly, but it might be possible by looking to see if it just is, it seems to be more urban.
Are we at the point where we, can find out, duty specifications and that type of thing within the thing, what are the duties of the mayor in this particular place? So we can start.
Everything's gonna be
It's all
public
public
record.
record. They got it. We have to be able to see it.
Is that
Randy, I myself, as a person who's only lived in the village in a little while, I sat down and been present in a number of settings, and I hear lots of floating things. I don't have the same historical, informal knowledge of what actually has gone on in the recent past that led to the moment that we're at. I don't really know in an organized, structured way what the current advantages are based on real experience and the current disadvantages are of the format we have. I don't really have my hands around that. That's why I wanted to do advantages, disadvantages, just baseline discussion, and then talk specifically about what the unique problems have been that would be in the disadvantages category, obviously. There's been some advantages, obviously, it's gone on a long time, but there's been disadvantages too. I don't know what they are. If we can't tease those out and get us all on the same page about it, because I can't have a meaningful discussion about, you asked a question, there's no way in the world I can answer. I don't even know what motivated you to ask that question. And I think that we have to get on the same page together. And I thought that's partially what we were doing in the early meeting times, is to everybody get on that page.
I think there's some advantage to not being on the same page, right? Because we're
Okay.
all gonna have, so we haven't lived in the village for 50 years. We have a much different perspective.
Me too, yeah.
Than folks who
Yeah,
have.
yeah, but
Right,
yes.
so there's an advantage to having the history and the background, and here's how it's always been done, here's what worked out great, and here's where it came from, it's always been. But I don't know that we need to all be on the same page as far as agreeing that that's where we are versus where we're going. Does that make
We should
sense?
divide up between pre-income tax and post-income tax.
Okay, divide.
What?
So, I mean, I think there's advantage in not knowing all of the details, Nina, so don't feel like you need to know,
Okay.
because
I just
think
want to,
it's also-
I'm trying to tease out the difference between the structure that exists and and the personalities and the people involved. I can't get my head around that.
I feel like having a good understanding of the current structure, independent of the personalities, is valid, like we should have that.
And if it's not working, why hasn't it worked? Are there things in place that made it so it never worked? I don't
So we
know.
don't repeat the same mistakes.
Exactly.
This may be an awful idea, but
I love Robert.
would it,
There are no awful ideas.
Yes, remember?
would it be a good idea to ask the council if they would meet with us
No,
and tell us what is
Absolutely
working
not.
and what's not?
absolutely not.
I
Absolutely.
don't-
Their perspective.
I feel like that might be.
What problem are we trying to solve? We don't have our hands on that.
I feel like. it might be
If it's
something
not
that-
broken,
Well,
you don't need
I
to
would
fix
say
it,
not
but
only the
I'm not
council,
suggesting that it's not broken.
but past councils. I think,
Either way.
I think some past
Any
councils, and it would be two different meetings perhaps, but, people that have been in the trenches currently, and if some would want to come forward for
I
that.
think that's a good thing.
In that same vein, I think it would also be interesting as stakeholders to include village administrators. So we should also have a conversation with Chief Dell, and we should have a conversation with Chief Foxtetter, and we should have a conversation with Ken Pulley. We should have a conversation with, if anybody is in that chair anymore, because they're the people who will be living the life that we write. kids.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that.
So I think there's a lot in that. There's a lot,
I mean, worst case scenario is information we have.
Yeah, but
Get people in here. and they
I'm not suggesting that we have the current council walk in here and dictate to us what the charter is going to be. I'm suggesting that
No,
we listen to their thoughts as to what they think is working, what they think is not.
absolutely.
Absolutely, and I think that you made a great point too, that it's not just current council, but past council as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
There's two of them here.
yeah, it's good, what's your idea?
Well, but.
Let's
So the things we're discussing, is that helping us decide which form of government we're aiming toward?
I think understanding.
Because that was one of our goals, was to say, okay,
I think understanding the pain points and also the successes, right? This is how,
It could,
this is worked and been good.
It seems like the process is going that direction.
it could certainly inform whether we want a strong mayor council, a weak mayor council form. It could certainly inform whether or not we want to eschew mayor council altogether and go mayor administrator or a council administrator based on the information that we get from those people. Right?
so when are we gonna make the decision?
Which decision about who to
About
meet
the
with
form
or
of
who to
government.
meet with?
About the form.
About which form? There's a
We're
lot
not
of
gonna
charter
make
that we
it-
can't write
no,
to.
no,
By the end of December, we'll have had me.
I think that's a fair goal.
That's
I
pretty
think
obvious.
we- I think we need to,
That is an ambitious.
That's the
goal.
ambitious goal, we don't have sports, that's what we don't have.
Oh, yeah, okay, maybe not by the end of December, maybe more like
Oh, not now.
January, yeah.
Well, especially if you want to get feedback from other
Yeah.
people ahead of time.
Because I think that the reality is, there are things that have to be done in a village. Period. Every village, everywhere, there's just things that have to be done. And basically what we want to hear is, what are all of those things and what's been working and what's been not working and getting them done.
Well, and
So
then
that we can decide what do we think is the best structure
if we're
and
gonna,
get it done.
I agree with that, and speaking of what has to be done and what doesn't have to be done or whatever, if we're gonna talk to councils, then if we're gonna, listen to them kind of unpack what hasn't worked, then I think we should listen to the mayor, because I'm
Yes.
not sure that, I think the mayor needs to come here and talk to us, because I'm not sure that we know what has to be done on a day-to-day basis unless she comes in here and talks to us about it.
Right.
So I want to go back, last meeting we talked about identifying our stakeholders, right? Who all has a stake in this game? And we identified the electorate, voters, right? Council members, the mayor, village employees, local businesses, Westville schools, and neighboring municipalities. It seems to me that it makes sense to get feedback from the stakeholders. It also seems to me like if we try to do that in one large group meeting, it's gonna take 2 months. So would it make sense to do that in maybe smaller groups, so we can how do and bring it back to a main meeting?
Yes, or,
Okay.
as I was sitting here thinking about all of the personalities of current and past council and mayor and village employees, having all the, what's the idea of sending a communication to these people with some questions, open-ended?
Much better idea.
And, I don't know about a survey per se, because I don't know that I wanna push them into any format,
Right.
but say, hi, you have been identified as a current / former council person of the Village of Minerva Park. We, in doing our very bestest efforts to write a charter, want to know, what you found successful or what worked well in the current governance structure, in your processes, what didn't, what were your biggest roadblocks, right? And ask of these people to give us that in writing so that it is clear, concise, with as little personality in it as.
That's a brilliant idea,
Perfect.
because the reason I was opposed to it is because I know what's gonna happen. We're gonna be overwhelmed by 2 to 4 voices.
Well,
Everyone else is gonna be drowned
Yeah.
out.
No,
the only thing I would say on that is there,
it's gonna be a public record, right? So you can't have an anonymous public record.
I mean, the
well,
responses, some people may not really want to.
You can mail the
Have their
response to
name
a summary, it doesn't have to be
connected.
by name. It can be all the advantages of what went well, and all the things that are
We
challenging.
can aggregate that into a document.
Exactly.
But anybody who wants to try hard enough will be able to request whatever emails they came to us in and get,
Public record.
Why would you want to?
So, again, anybody who wants to can. But it's, right, so,
are there people who it would not be in our best interest to do it in communication? So for example, chief, is it asking too much of his time versus just a half hour sit down? I don't know.
yeah, so that was my idea when it came to council, right? When it comes to Chief Delp and Hochstetter and, village employees, I think, again, because I wouldn't anticipate anybody that's gonna wanna argue that, right? Like, who's gonna argue with the police chief if they don't know how police chiefing works?
What if we do this? What if we form a subcommittee of 3 or 4 people in this commission whose job it is to seek out current, former members of council, current, former, village employees, the current mayor, and conduct interviews with them to the extent that they're able to, and then report back to the main commission.
I like the written.
I like that. Does that have to be public?
Well, yeah, but
And any document,
I mean, do the interviews if we have to make the interviews public,
No, it wouldn't, because, it's just gonna be 1 or 2, maybe even 1, committee member that would be. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That way,
that
they could,
addresses the
for
problem.
instance, the members of the commission could just schedule a meeting with a councilman at whatever time. They sit down in the living room for half an hour and just ask some questions, get a sense of what that councilman's thoughts are, and move on to the next person.
I like the idea of interviews, especially with, employees, so that they don't feel like if they write something down and they talk about, you know, something that didn't get
It'll
done.
affect their performance review,
Exactly.
right?
We don't do
Yeah.
We don't?
I do,
Oh.
I do like interviews for employees, but I think just the sheer potential number of council people makes that really hard.
And there's no rule that says you have to interview all of them, you hit as many as you can, you know.
True, but then if you don't make the inquiry as many, then we have perception issues that are obvious.
So how
So-
do I identify past council members? Is that something that somebody already
That's
has
also
information?
all correct.
That's public record.
Yeah, so,
Something someone already has easy access to, knows where it is.
No, I did not.
Access
I can give you a list.
I was just gonna say, I could give you ups, especially the ones that live in the village, and
Yeah.
then, we wanted to seek out some people that we found.
I've definitely fallen down that rabbit hole of looking at all of the Park election results for the last 40 years, so, yes.
Yeah.
I thought maybe somebody around the table,
So my,
maybe felt on that.
my question is, for these interviews, would it be better to have someone new to the village do the interviews or someone with more experience within the context of the village government? Because I can see pros and cons from both sides.
Well, and that's another reason I like the written language better, because they don't have that influence.
Right.
They're
We need to be-
being as it is.
We need to be cognizant of what is
Bias.
procedural,
They're gonna get it
structural, and
exactly.
what is personal,
We need to
because,
find
you know, having a mayor you disagree with will certainly sour your council experience, I can assume.
There's definitely a shorter effect there, right?
So are we talking about some written and some in person? Where's,
Why
is there a consensus or both people are doing it?
I like the written idea.
Can, let's throw out this notion. Why don't we draft something and send it out to as many as we can and see what results we get? If the results are good and we feel it's ample and representative, that's plenty. If we feel it's not, then we can pursue more actively additional responses.
Are we talking employees
That-
and
that-
council and putting them both in the same pot?
No, I think that's just council. With employees, I think I also don't know that we want to chase down former employees, like, I don't know, right? I don't think it's gonna do us any good reaching out to Chief Newsy and whoever the police chief was before that.
No,
I don't know who
absolutely
that
not.
was, right? So,
Yeah, no.
Right.
that's,
and then,
Bobby.
you know, so for fiscal officer, it's Ken, and before that was Jeff Wilczek. I'm
There's Suzanne Coulter who
Yeah.
still lives there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if Jeff would return a call. Yeah, I mean,
I think Suzanne would be a good person. Former clerk treasurer.
right.
And she did it for like 10 years.
So let's do this. So I think that just numerically, current and former council is just prohibitive to single person. There's also just the fact that you then have to deal with personalities, conflicts, figuring out who you want to interview who, they're gonna get different answers based on the person. A written response is just agnostic, right? It's gonna be the same no matter who reads it. So I think for council, it makes sense to do the written, or maybe one-offs, try and be more respectful of their time, just like the chief and everybody else. Maybe that would be in person, or what are your
And
thoughts?
I think so, because for some of us who have more flexible schedules, you could do it during the day when they're here and we're here. And so it gets done without them having to, do a meeting in the evening.
Yeah.
So,
Do
and
we,
I know Lori, I'm gonna find out, Lori, who was
Yeah.
she's moved to Pennsylvania, but probably could get her phone and talk to her, she'd be able to.
Schumacher. No.
No, that's Sarah.
Sarah Schumacher.
Yeah.
And now she's not Schumacher anymore, right?
Right. Something else, yeah.
Pam, were you talking about current employees or former?
No, current ones, basically, I was just thinking because I knew Lori, that I could reach out to her and it would be for a former one. No, just
Nope,
current
then
ones.
you limited your sample to the one that you know.
Exactly, I
And you
have.
limited it to your bestie.
Well, but
Not very limited.
if we can't, no, but if we can't get this position, I think Becky might be open to being talked to, even if she has to come back. If we couldn't, I would like to get someone for this position, whether I talk to her or someone
I think
else.
she's supposed to
That's up in the air.
So current village employees, in person or written, what do you
In
think?
person.
In person, all right, so one-offs in person, council, written, what about the other stakeholders? I'm thinking written just because,
Yeah, I mean, so for the other stakeholders, businesses, so when it comes to, we listed businesses in the area, I would.
I know, I'm thinking the same
I
thing.
mean,
There's gonna be a lot of complaining about zoning. If a business responds to a written request for what worked well, what didn't work well, if they respond, they're gonna be responding because they had a hassle with zoning. It's probably the only reason they would respond, and I think that that alone would kind of skew things. And
oh, does it make it, even if it's the only part, does it make it valid?
it doesn't make it an invalid complaint at all. It just
We just need to
means
keep in mind that the,
that I think we're gonna
actually
hear the
fact,
same thing.
what we're actually fact gathering about right now is
Yes.
not about the zoning ordinances or the sewers, because that's why we're not going to just the citizens for
Right.
thoughts on this, because they'll just complain about the sewers,
Right.
right? We're trying to figure out what form of government is going to be best for this village.
And
We
you
need
just,
to talk about what is going to work and not work between the, what is working and not working in the current council mayor
Well,
relationship.
so in the interest of time, so we only have 15 minutes, can we just give someone an action item to maybe put together some drafts of the ones we've identified and then table the other stakeholders, businesses, schools, and neighboring municipalities, we can have that conversation next week.
I'm willing to draft questions if someone will, help me with that. I would appreciate another person. I don't want just my questions. Well, and then how about more than one? Are you
Yeah,
interested?
yeah.
Because I want
Yeah.
you've been here way long. I've been here, a little long, but long. So,
And we want just a, that's, you can decide, a lot of questions or a few questions.
Right.
Open-ended, or not open-ended.
There's a sweet spot.
right.
And I can not be a part of it.
No, I want you to be a part. No, I want you to be a part. I actually think kind of 3 is perfect for this.
Nick or Sid, do you want to be a part of coming up with those questions, or?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I want to also include people.
I can't do it during the day.
I see a lot of,
I can't.
isn't this coming up, there's gonna be a lot of emails?
yeah, most likely.
So right now, what I'm thinking is people to draft the questions.
That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's all we're doing.
We could bring the questions to this next meeting. and get it
And
approved.
get it approved. So that doesn't have to be done during the day.
Perfect.
So who is it?
And Paul.
And then, okay, so what you said, Kelly, reminds me, our biggest stakeholder, the largest stakeholder are the villagers of Minerva Park. So on this note, then I think that we need to start now determining a date for a time when the village we have a big meeting and we
Get the school.
throw questions out and people get to give us their responses.
I was thinking not a big meeting, I was thinking small meeting, like.
You want multiple small
Monday.
meetings. You want
I know.
multiple, you want multiple small meetings.
Yes.
It better be more than one because that's completely not fair.
Well, I mean, but couldn't people, ask for appointments, like to be on the,
No, they're not.
okay.
No, I don't think it.
Well,
let's table this because again, 10 minutes on wrap.
yeah, you know what,
Think about
I'm open to
How
any,
many, I'm sorry, how many people showed up for the meeting, information meeting before the committee? Not many.
So
How many?
I don't know how many anymore. I did know that at one time, but I don't now. But it's irrelevant. We have to offer it.
Oh, yeah, I agree, I agree.
I don't care if only one person shows up to every meeting.
Yeah, absolutely, but let's table that, think about it, come back next week with ideas of how you want that to look. So it's not a complete melee, right? Right. Because it could turn into that, that's what we want to avoid. So I want to move on to the next items, if I could run us through in the next 10 minutes. So the next item on the agenda was committee updates.
It's supposed to be my phone, I thought it turned off, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think if you're doing fact gathering, I don't think big meetings work, okay? It's just the nature of it, it just doesn't work. If you're trying to present information, I'm all for that kind of big meeting, but I kind of think, you know, small meetings, conversations is the only way you're gonna get it. The big meetings, we all know how they turn out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Your fact
Really, we don't have any-
You're doing fact gathering.
No, doing presentation, yes.
How many of these meetings, I know you're tabling, I'm sorry. Yeah, I've stopped. Thank you.
All right, committee updates. I know that we've only got one subcommittee so far, but is there anything new to,
I do, sorry, let me collect myself for a minute. So I am one of the members of the legal committee, I guess we're calling it. We had a question, and we were presented with a question by the commission. I'm speaking pedantically like this because I know we're being recorded, and I want people to understand, anybody who's listening to understand what I'm saying. So myself, Shelley and Deb are the three members of the legal committee, and this commission presented us with the question of how are we handling legal counsel as it pertains to questions that the commission may have as it goes through this draft process. Basically, how do we get questions answered? How is that going to be, you know, how much is that going to cost? Who's going to be the counsel? We started trying to kind of brainstorm who could we talk to about hiring outside counsel for that. And what we're actually kind of, the three of us have been talking is using Jean, because Jean is the city solicitor. So what Deb and I came up with, and I want to see if the commission approves this, is Deb, Shelley, and I go to the next council meeting and present a question to the council of Minerva Park. Basically, I don't have the specific wording of the question, but basically along the lines of, may the charter commission present questions to the city solicitor and expect the city solicitor to answer those questions, or must we go hire outside counsel and get that approved by the council?
you're asking if as part of whatever.
Basically, is can we just use the city solicitor for the city solicitor's job, which is to advise the city officials? We are elected officials, and I mean, this is,
So are we covered by the retainer?
yeah, are we covered by that, or would Jean have to,
That'd be a separate, I can tell you, that's a separate contract.
has that actually been posed to
We have
Jean?
talked about it, yes. And Gene's not in favor of being involved. And the point that I would like to make to you is if you want to have an appearance of unbiased legal counsel, using Gene would, you know, you've heard the story. I don't want to vote for, I'm not approving anything that group of people is involved in the council.
So
You know,
what,
if you wanted to eliminate that,
what we need to do is
Well, I
we
can-
need to get that from Gene's mouth. That
So
it's gonna be a separate
so it was-
contract.
Yeah,
so
I don't
it
know
was-
official
I
right.
can send
it
you.
was
an
Deb's
email.
idea to basically, like, kind of basically officially pose the question to council so that we get an official response from them. And then when we have the official response of, no, Gene isn't going to do it for X, Y, and Z reasons, at that point, we will talk to other people.
You can't communicate, you can communicate with them directly. If you got a forum,
I would think we could.
you responded to me when I had to do the chase thing, I had to get it through.
Right.
could.
I guess what I could do, if the commission wants me to, what I will do is contact him directly and ask him to send me a letter, either approving or declining.
Yeah.
You know, answering questions for us.
Yeah.
Because I think Deb raised a strong, I know she's not here to speak for herself, but she raised a good point of, he's the city solicitor, he works for the city. It seems to follow that we should just be able to use him as a resource, just like the city does. But
Yeah, and I was here when she brought that up, and I, you know, as opposed as I am to using Jean for anything, she's absolutely right that the only way that it would benefit us is if it didn't cost extra money.
And that's, I think, what she's getting at, and frankly, that makes sense to me. I like the idea of not spending extra money.
Right.
But yeah, so what I will do, go ahead and make it an action item. I will contact Gene before the next meeting directly and ask him to send us a letter, basically, with his official stance on it. I suppose if Gene is going to tell us no, or if the council is going to tell us that Gene gets to say no, then our next step probably, because it's the only other name that we have, is to go ahead and meet with the Brimmer and Eckler people.
I think wasn't the suggestion that it wouldn't be Gene necessarily, but it might be somebody else in their office? Because I think quite a few of them deal with
Yeah, that's
municipalities. And Jennifer I really like Jennifer when we worked with her.
So I'll ask him that when I call.
Yeah.
I'll see if there just be someone else from his office.
Should this be in the form of a motion from us? Or just
I think, is there consensus? Yeah.
So that's an action item, 4 minutes left, not on calendar.
I love it.
I think that's what I've got.
All right, good. All right, so we did new items for discussion, parking lot items, we're not gonna bring up for discussion in our next 4 minutes, but they are out there. And I can send those in email form, or, Evan, I can send them to you in email form, so you can have them in meetings. We talked about some questions about the process for spending money for the charter commission, tabled that, so down to closing, does anyone have the agenda still up?
In 30 seconds,
Yes.
Nina and I said, that we'll go ahead and, see if we can, before the next meeting, look at some of the charters in Central Ohio and just summarize what, they have. Paul's gonna do the bigger chart of everyone, and then we can start looking and seeing if there's some other places in Ohio that we want.
Yes, so we're doing open action items. You got the first one? You got the second one?
And did I understand correctly, we're setting ourselves a tentative goal of mid-January to answer the question of what form of government this thing is gonna be drafted
I think
as?
it's a good tentative goal. I think maybe let's figure out next week on the written feedback. If we all agree on it, when we can get it sent, and what's a reasonable expectation of getting things back at the deadline. And then also we need to figure out what we want to do for meetings with voters. If that looks like
That's the
meetings, if
thing.
this is the deadline, right?
If
So we need to
it's-
figure that out before.
Yeah, if it's.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure we're staying.
Yeah, I mean, we're aiming for it, but it may be more like January. I'd like not
I think
leave
it's,
January without that question.
yeah, I think it's important to understand too that whichever one we pick, it doesn't make any difference as far as, we could tailor them either way. So I don't want to give it, if we tell people that we're gonna do a city mayor or council mayor, it's kind of misleading, because we don't have the details yet. And when we have those details, that's when we really, the devil's in the details of this, because
Yes.
it doesn't really matter which one, you literally can pick either one and tailor it to such a way that they do the way that I can see it. Maybe there's some.
I agree with you completely. I think that maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. I think you're absolutely right. We come up with a division of power first, the rules by which they play, and then we,
And I think
where does it fit?
a little bit of what their action item is to go through and look at some of the existing ones and see how they've done it. Right? Let's not make it harder than we have to. Let's look at how everybody else has done it, piece it together and
Let's
works for
not
us.
forget, we can bring in people, there may be some people from one week, local,
Mhm.
come in and talk to us for free and say, give us their experience of a year of doing this. And how did you come upon your
Right.
city, you know,
Right.
maybe one from each, a mayor one,
Right.
and one that's,
Yeah. Well, I think maybe let's figure out who's doing what, and then whichever one we're leaning more towards, is ask them. Somebody from the ones who are doing it most like that. And then we'll talk about it.
We probably should choose from
One of these.
we probably should choose more with the kind of government we're not familiar with. Because we pretty much,
you could probably help.
we pretty much know about a mayor and council that we live with or so. And I like Kelly's idea of the balance of power. I think that's really important.
I'm really uncomfortable with the idea of the chief executive officer of the city being able to be fired by the council at any given time.
Seems to be good for lunch, you know. All right, so next meeting date is next week, Thursday, starting at 6:30.
Six
6:30 to 8:30.
6 o'clock for the
There's gonna be a house
Six
meeting
o'clock.
for 6 o'clock. All right.
Are you guys appointing the 3 additional members, or how's that going?
So we actually put an advert out in the book. I don't know what it's called, the village update.
So it's gonna be the.
Soliciting people who would like to fill the position.
Yeah. What was the date that we gave them?
What's the-
December. We gave them a deadline to submit, I don't remember.
I don't remember what it was.
City manager, yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Did you work with him on the charter at all?
Yes.
No, I did not, but I have.